Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 2,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Falcons fans, buckle up, because what you're about to hear is going to flip everything you thought you knew about Tua Tagovailoa on its head. For years, the narrative was simple. Tua was a Mike McDaniel guy, a Miami guy, a system quarterback who needed speed, motion, and chaos to look like a superstar. Take him out of that flashy, sunshine-soaked Dolphins offense, the thinking went. And maybe the magic disappears with it. Well, hold on to your seats, because insiders are now saying the exact opposite might be true. Tua could actually be a better fit in Atlanta in a totally different system than he ever was in Miami. And the tight end who's about to become the biggest beneficiary of this move isn't some mystery man either. It's a name Falcons fans already know and love. Let's rewind for a second, because to understand just how shocking this is, you need to understand what Tua's entire career has been built on. When Mike McDaniel took over in Miami, he built an offense around dizzying pre-snap motion. More of it than almost any play caller in the entire NFL. He wanted yards after the catch, he wanted his skill players in space, and he had the horses to do it. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devin Achane, all racing around before the snap like a magic trick designed to confuse grown men in shoulder pads. It was electric. It was explosive. And when it worked, it was nearly unstoppable. But here's the catch, and this is the part nobody wants to admit. It was also incredibly hard to execute. This wasn't an offense you could just roll out of bed and run. It demanded precision, timing, and total buy-in from every single player on the field. Every single play. And that's exactly where things started to fall apart. Because while the scheme was a work of art on a whiteboard, the culture around it in Miami reportedly wasn't holding up its end of the bargain. Multiple reports painted a picture of a locker room that wasn't exactly locked in. Players strolling into meetings late, practice habits that left a lot to be desired, a laissez-faire atmosphere that clashed badly with an offense that required surgical precision to function. Imagine trying to run a Formula One car with a pit crew that shows up whenever they feel like it. That's the disconnect Miami was dealing with. A genius offense undercut by an environment that couldn't sustain it. Now picture the total opposite of that. That's what insiders say Tua is walking into with Kevin Stefanski and the Atlanta Falcons. According to a jaw-dropping new interview, one sports personality who sat down for an exclusive one-on-one breakdown dropped a claim that stopped Falcons fans in their tracks. When asked how Tua, a guy who thrived for years in Mike McDaniel's system, is going to adjust to Kevin Stefanski's offense in Atlanta, the answer wasn't "it'll be an adjustment." The answer was, and we're paraphrasing here because this is a direct gut punch to the doubters, Tua might actually be an even better fit for Stefanski than he ever was for McDaniel. The reasoning? Stefanski's offense lives and dies on timing and accuracy, and Tua, despite whatever narrative you've heard about his health or his ceiling, remains one of the single most accurate passers in the entire NFL. Let that sink in for a second. This isn't some hot take from a random internet troll. This is a real substantive claim that the very foundation of Tua's game, his accuracy, his timing, his ability to deliver a football exactly where it needs to be, might be even more valuable in Atlanta's new offensive world than it ever was in Miami's chaos. So what exactly does Kevin Stefanski's offense look like, and why would it fit Tua like a glove? Buckle up, because this is where things get interesting. Unlike McDaniel's whirlwind of pre-snap motion and manufactured touches, Stefanski's system is built on a completely different philosophy. Run the football, lean on your offensive line, and let your quarterback manage the game instead of trying to single-handedly win it. We're talking about a scheme that avoids putting its quarterback in brutal long-yardage situations. No 3rd and 9, no 3rd and 10, no desperate heaves down the field to save a drive. Stefanski wants third and manageable. 3rd and 5, or shorter. Quick, decisive throws that move the chains and keep the offense in rhythm. Think about what that means for a guy like Tua, who has taken his fair share of criticism over the years for arm strength concerns and deep ball inconsistency. In Stefanski's world, none of that matters nearly as much. Tua isn't being asked to sling it 50 yards downfield into triple coverage. He's being asked to live in that intermediate zone somewhere between 5 and 15 yards, and to be efficient, decisive, and on target. He's not being asked to solve disguised coverages before the snap like some sort of chess grandmaster. He's being told to attack space, find the openings, and trust his reads. And who exactly is going to be on the receiving end of most of those reads? A trio that should make every single Falcons fan giddy: Bijan Robinson out of the backfield, Drake London on the outside, and drumroll please, Kyle Pitts working the middle of the field. And that brings us to the real headline here, the reveal that has Falcons X absolutely buzzing. When asked point blank which player stands to benefit the most from Tua's arrival in Atlanta, the answer was immediate and emphatic: Kyle Pitts. The insider didn't hedge, didn't hesitate. He came out and said he's been vocal about this for a while now. Kyle Pitts is the guy. The reasoning is almost poetic in its simplicity. Tua has a track record of making tight ends look like superstars. It happened with multiple different tight ends throughout his career in Miami, and according to this insider, Kyle Pitts has more raw talent than any of the tight ends Tua has ever thrown to. So if Tua could elevate lesser talents, just imagine what he could do with a physical marvel like Pitts, especially after Atlanta just made the franchise-altering decision to pay him like the superstar many believe he can become. But here's the twist, and it's a juicy one. Some analysts believe the credit for Pitts' coming breakout shouldn't go to Tua at all. It should go to Kevin Stefanski himself. Because if there's one thing we know about Stefanski as a play caller and head coach, it's this: the man is obsessed with his tight ends. Not a mild interest, an obsession. Ask him at any introductory press conference what his favorite position on offense is, and you already know the answer before he even opens his mouth. Tight end. Tight end. Tight end. It practically drips off his lips every time. And it's not just talk. The numbers back it up in a way that should terrify opposing defensive coordinators. Since Kevin Stefanski became a head coach back in 2020, his tight ends have finished with target shares ranking 3rd, 4th, 5th, 9th, and 2nd in the league. Read that again. Every single season. Never outside the top 10. It doesn't matter who's lining up at tight end for him, a rookie still finding his footing, a grizzled veteran, it doesn't matter. Stefanski finds a way to funnel the football to that position like it's written into his DNA. Every single year since 2020, Stefanski has produced a top 10 fantasy tight end. Every single year. That is not luck. That is a system, a philosophy, a religion almost, built around exploiting the middle of the field through his tight ends. So now combine that obsession with a player who was already putting up video game numbers in the snap count department. Last season, Kyle Pitts ranked 4th among all tight ends in the NFL in offensive snap percentage, playing an eye-popping 87% of Atlanta's offensive snaps. The only players ahead of him? A tight end who missed more than half the season due to injury, and 2 of the most productive pass catchers at the position in the entire league. Strip out the injured player from that equation, and Kyle Pitts was effectively the 3rd most used tight end in snap count across the entire NFL. He was already on the field constantly, now add a head coach who force-feeds his tight ends targets like it's a personal mission, and a quarterback whose greatest strength happens to be precision accuracy. It's not hard to see why the hype train for Kyle Pitts in 2026 is picking up serious steam. And here's a fun little nugget that's been quietly building in the background. almost like fate has been writing this story all along. Since Kyle Pitts entered the league, his touchdown total has increased by exactly one every single season. 1 touchdown his rookie year, 2 the next, then 3, then 4, then 5. Follow that pattern, and this upcoming season should land him at 6 touchdowns. Add a coach who's obsessed with tight ends, a quarterback known for pinpoint accuracy, and a workload that already ranks among the very best at the position, and suddenly 6 touchdowns doesn't sound like some wild, optimistic projection. It sounds conservative. Now, could the added competition for targets in Atlanta's receiver room hold Pitts back from a truly monster statistical season? It's a fair question. This isn't a barren wide receiver room anymore. Drake London is a bona fide #1 option. Zay Branch is emerging. Jamaryn Jandison and Zacchaeus round out a group with legitimate depth. There are a lot of mouths to feed in this offense now. But even with all that competition, the expectation from those who watch this closely is that Kyle Pitts should still be in line for another season north of 800 receiving yards, with a real shot at finally cracking that elusive 4-figure mark if everything breaks the right way. Put it all together, and you've got a perfect storm brewing in Atlanta. A quarterback whose greatest strength, timing, and accuracy happens to be exactly what his new head coach's offense demands. A coaching staff that has, without fail, funneled targets to the tight end position for 6 straight seasons. And a physically gifted, already heavily used tight end who is about to get fed by a quarterback with a track record of turning tight ends into stars. If you're a Falcons fan, this is the kind of storyline that should have you absolutely buzzing heading into the season. Forget what Tua looked like in Miami. This might be a completely different, arguably better version of him, wearing a different uniform, building chemistry with one of the most talented tight ends in football. Inside a system practically engineered to make that connection explode. Of course, questions remain. How many games will Tua actually start in 2026? Will he hold off any competition at the position and lock down QB1 duties for the majority of the year? Most signs point toward yes, with expectations that he could start somewhere in the range of 9 or 10 games this season. But even that remains to be seen as the Falcons navigate a pivotal, high-stakes year in Atlanta. One thing is becoming crystal clear, though. The marriage between Tua Tagovailoa's surgical accuracy and Kevin Stefanski's tight end-obsessed, timing-based offense could be one of the most fascinating storylines in the entire NFL this season. And Kyle Pitts, the man Atlanta just paid like a superstar, might finally be about to prove every single believer right. So Falcons fans, mark this moment. Remember where you heard it first. This story is just getting started, and if these early signs are any indication, 2026 could be the season everything finally clicks in Atlanta. If you're as fired up about this as we are, don't just sit there, smash that like button, drop a comment down below telling us if you believe Kyle Pitts is about to have a monster season, and if you haven't already, hit subscribe so you never miss another update on your Atlanta Falcons. This story is far from over, and trust us, you do not want to miss what comes next. Rise up, Falcons fans, and we'll see you in the next one.